As I was walking through replying a few comments, I saw this one heckler that started to say, "Oh, you're an Xbox fanboy." And I replied and said, "Hey, I'm sure you watched the video and that's all you could come up with, a console war." And he just replied immediately, "See, Xbox fan, it's like they're a program, a drone that can only basically follow one line of command." So I say, let them talk. One thing about this whole thing is, for the most part, the reality has gone hidden. No one really had access to the information, but as a lot of the press and media found out that the way they could gain attention was actually putting out data, it started to become a thing that was everywhere. I even saw another audience member that said, "Hey, VG, I was talking about something on the internet, and somebody kept saying that you are an Xbox fanboy, and I told them that you play on PC, and they just kept saying you're an Xbox fanboy, so I called them an empty vessel." I say, ladies and gentlemen, if you are on the side of looking for what the gaming industry is doing, just let them talk. There's nothing else that they actually have to offer, and they are empty vessels. If you understand what I mean, there's a saying, empty vessels make the most noise. When they say things like Xbot, nobody likes Xbox. Xbox, like another person said, does not need to go into the handheld market because they can't even sell their consoles and all of this other stuff. All you got to do is just focus on what gamers are actually saying. I go back to this particular subreddit post because there are a lot of comments that I still haven't gotten through. And if we look through these comments, it's not necessarily something that you can say is simply anecdotal. Anecdotal would be probably maybe a dozen or, maybe 20. But now we're starting to see more than that. And I think it's necessary that we pay attention to this one particular metric. This user asks a question: is anybody extremely jealous between the difference in quality between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus recently? And the empty vessels, as they're on Twitter making noise and shouting and saying Xbox is dead, third-party publisher, Xbox games, yabba dabba da, they have no exclusive. Their own camp of PlayStation players who are interested in games are saying Game Pass just this past week have got Expedition 33 and Oblivion Remaster as day one releases. I believe they're getting the Doom game as well. This was 11 days ago. This particular thread has been up. And then they said, we feels like us PlayStation users are getting effed over with what we're receiving in return for our subscription. Ladies and gentlemen, when they make statements like this and their replies like this one, which somebody says, buy an Xbox then. And this person said, that's the best thing about Game Pass. You don't even have to buy an Xbox for it since it's on TV, PC, Xbox consoles, and as many devices as Xbox can put it on, of which this person said, I've just ordered it. If I enjoy it, I'll pass my Pro to my brother. This person said, why not keep your Pro? The person that said, buy an Xbox then. So when the PlayStation exclusive comes out, you'll be able to play that particular game. Well, this guy replied and said, I promised to buy him a console, so instead I'll just give him my Pro and get an Xbox for myself. I'll borrow it if a good exclusive comes out. Offering Suicide Squad as a monthly game in January really put the last nail in the coffin for me. I don't want to become the fanboy I've been criticizing all along. I feel kind of sad since I've been using PlayStation since PSX, but it's time to move on. Again, like I said, let them talk. You see, their noise is basically based on emptiness, because I purposefully asked that person, I said, did you watch the video to actually conclude this fanboy console warring comment that you're making? And it was a serious comment. I didn't want to roast them. I didn't want to do it. In fact, I'm not even putting their name on. I've simply blocked them and moved on. But it's just interesting to see that in the face of this reality, that all they can do is drone about, oh, you're a fanboy, blah, 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 blah. And they continue to do that, which is just funny. While another user on this thread said, I just ordered an Xbox today just for Game Pass. Because, MYS, I don't know what that is as well. Well, if I bought all 3 new games day one, I want to play, it's almost as much as one. Obviously, keeping the PS5, though, I already have an Xbox, but I let my brother use it because I hadn't turned it on in over a year. But lately, seems like awesome games have come to Game Pass, so it's worth it. You see, gamers are more interested in games. They are not interested in your console war. They never have been. I told y'all. It's only for people who feel that this is some kind of an important metric in some particular way that's, going to basically do it. Another one on this PlayStation sub says, I told y'all this thing was a gold mine. This person said, canceled my Sony sub. I got a new Lenovo laptop, which had 3 months free Game Pass. It has many more games, and the best part, you don't need an Xbox to play on TV. You can use Game Pass Cloud Gaming straight from the TV. If your TV supports Xbox Cloud Gaming, I'm sure that Lenovo laptop is going to grant them access to Game Pass. They did that like a few years ago. I didn't even know they still did that in terms of showing pretty much, new laptops and new SKUs that basically do that. This other person said, look at this. And that person that is actually saying this, I'm sorry, I said this other person. It's the same person that's up here. This Green Soli. Are they just going around and just talking? Or maybe they replied to other people. They said, we all share the same feeling, mate. Some of us just don't want to admit it. But at the end of the day, I'm a consumer, not a cash cow. So I'm definitely with you on this one. They do some good work over there, which caught my attention. Lately, I've also realized how many games you have on PS Plus that's still lacking 60 hertz updates, while they're getting them constantly. We're even forced to pay additionally for PS5 upgrades. Whoa! I can't believe that got said. We've been talking about this stuff for a while. Hey, Jiggery Pokery, aka Jiggery Pokery, the user, you remember when I told you that when PlayStation charged me an extra $5 or so to play Uncharted 4 on the PS5 at improved frame rates? That's when I said, nah, bro, you guys have basically messed up. You are not getting an ounce of my money inordinately anymore. That's when I signed out. I was like, we're not doing this anymore. And I still haven't even bought the game on PC because I usually double dipped on PlayStation games. I have multiple copies of Spider-Man. I got multiple copies of Miles Morales. I got multiple copies of God of War 2018. And then when I looked at Uncharted, I said, as a matter of principle, I'm not giving this company a single dime. And there is a DRM-free version of that thing on Good Old Games, and it's one of my favorite games, and I'm still not giving them that $10 because all they want to do is nickel and dime the heck out of you while their fanboys make noise and basically try to distract you from the fact that they are trying to rake your wallet over the coals. This person said, I was offered Suicide Squad as a monthly game in January, which is infuriating. They didn't even bother to redeem it. They demand more and more from us without giving much in exchange. Again, the empty vessels are pretty much going, in that regard, to make, they're just making noise. This person said, I'm a PlayStation player. I'm a PS5 player first and foremost, but do own an Xbox Series X purely as a Game Pass machine. The value is in Game Pass is massive. With their current streak, I haven't touched my PS5 in a while. Me too, replied Freezer1990. Xbox with Game Pass is great. I mean, what in the world are you guys even talking about? I mean, think about it, right? This person is over here. And again, you're going to see some streaks of, I guess maybe a different opinion. This person said, I guess it's not surprising. Sony are destroying Microsoft in this generation. Game Pass has to be better to try and shift some consoles. Competition is good. I'm sure if Xbox was doing better, Sony would up their game. At the moment, they can put an old slot on PS Plus and sales still go up. Well, No Dust 5599. I don't know what you were trying to imply here, but I think you may have insulted PlayStation players by saying that they would still buy slop. Don't say things like that, okay? You can probably cite the fact that they sold more consoles and hence Xbox is upping its game, but to say something like that, that's kind of weird, okay? Don't let that be something that clouds your judgment, in my opinion. Another user says this, yeah, I signed up for the year and it's garbage. FML was with Game Pass prior and it's not even comparable. So apparently they've gone ahead to make their money and yeah. This person said I have both Game Pass Ultimate and PS Plus Extra and there's basically no comparison. Basically, only reason why I'm not regretting PS Plus, I got it really cheap, 33% off for 12-month price. Game Pass has a better selection of games. Games tend to hit Game Pass sooner, outside of expectations, like Hogwarts Legacy. And obviously, they won games from a huge number of Xbox studios. Yo, listen, if you're going to come out here and all you're going to say is that I'm an Xbox fanboy or whatever it is, I mean, that's your opinion. I don't have to sit here and tell you that I have basically more computing power than all the consoles in your household put together. I don't have to sit here and tell you that. Even though, maybe we can go ahead and, compare and, basically measure and do some, freaking benchmarks to see how much computing you can do. Doesn't bother me. Truth is truth. It doesn't matter whether you sit here and scream fanboy from morning till night. I know that you're an empty vessel. I understand exactly how, y'all operate. I've only entertained you guys just so that we could stall for at least a little bit. And now the stalling phase is now, pretty much over. The reality has landed. Anybody who could have seen this, was already aware that somewhere, somehow, this so called theme of running all over the place and making all this noise and doing all this was not going to ever be sustainable for anybody in that ecosystem. There was going to be a differential. I just did not want to go ahead and make that claim in any video. But now, as I'm seeing PlayStation fans make this move and talk about it, and PlayStation users, it's now more and more comfortable, and it's going to start rolling off our tongue even more. And again, that's exactly what you guys are making noise in order for other people not to hear, but they're hearing it, if you understand what I mean. I'm not going to say, as much as I'm a PC gamer, I'm not going to sit here and deny that, Game Pass brought a very interesting value to the conversation. PC players who are about the games, they understand. These are the same people that would sit there for months until games get discounted, yet they can pay a small fee and get into PC gaming. Xbox understands the PC gamer like the back of their palm. It's just so weird how they've been able to go ahead and say this particular demographics is very stubborn, doesn't give money away easily, so let's go ahead and find a way to bring them into our ecosystem. And they've basically started to, make some grounds. And what's very interesting is this particular post here, where they're also making grounds in PlayStation while the empty vessels continue to make noise. Keep talking. Let them talk. Peace out.